Welcome to Buckets. My name's Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. This is your Future Jays episode for Monday, December 8th in the association. We'll give you best bets, a chef's choice, so very tight select. You know how you go to those really good restaurants and they give you like it tastes awesome, but it's very small? That's what you're getting tonight because the slate is tight in the NBA. So we'll get that for you as well. Want to let you know that today's show is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. On today's show, we'll also go over a number. We have a lightning round of best bets, or rather futures conversations that we want to get to today with Joe Dellera at Joe Dellera, host of the Cash That podcast. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Joe Dellera and in the Action Network app. And Jim Turvey from Roto Grinders at Turvey Bets. Make sure to follow him in the Action Network app and check out his work at Roto Grinders. We have a number of things to hit in the futures world. Like this week and I think next week, we're going to have to lightning round some stuff and really go through them quickly because we have a lot to kind of talk about and get started with. But I want to start today by letting you know that, one, you need to download the Action Network app. Best way for you to track your picks, to get up-to-the-second information where the bets and money are coming in on. Don't forget to check out Action Pro right now. You can get $20 off an annual subscription with the promo code POD20. Just visit actionnetwork.com/pro. $20 off with POD20 as your promo code at actionnetwork.com/pro. Also, if you're watching at youtube.com/the Action Network, please give us a like and subscribe. If you're listening on the podcast, hey, tell a friend, tell a buddy, be like, hey, I bet the Lakers last night and it was a great or bad bet, depending on how you want to frame it. And then be like, oh, do you like betting? Because I have listened to this podcast. Tell a buddy about buckets. Okay. Our first lightning round topic is this. We did teams that we think are probably paper tigers last week on the show and talked about teams that we think are probably not as good, including the Toronto Raptors, who, oh, by the way, have started to I do want to comment on that quickly and just say that Brandon Anderson's absolutely bonkers guano insane cap that they were going to bench their $40 million, their multi-million-dollar big contract guys in favor of the gritty, good bench players is still insane. But we are inching closer to Jamal Shed probably getting a shot at the starting unit. This starting unit cannot defend, specifically Brandon Ingram, and pretty much anybody can't defend. And it's a huge problem for the Raptors. They're basically great defensively as long as Brandon Ingram is not on the court. So be on the lookout for that. We'll catch up with that with Brandon when he gets back from his football palooza in February. Okay. Let's talk about, though, teams that we think are due to improve. And these two have one of my least favorite teams in the association that they are backing. Jim Turvey, I will let you begin with your first one.
Yeah, let's. This is the one that Joe and I share. So I'll try not to steal all of the cap here, but the Portland Trailblazers. So this was the team that, when I did kind of those luck rankings last week, I talked through some of the different aspects of that. They came in about 24th on there. They had been the 6th unluckiest or 7th unluckiest team. Not the highest, not the peak. Toronto was the peak, the luckiest team that I saw. But I will say, I think one thing that was skewing it was the health. Because by the metrics I was using, Portland had been, quote unquote, relatively healthy. But really what's happened to Portland is they haven't lost big stars. Denny has played a lot. Shaden's missed a few games here and there, but they don't have that many the guys that are plus EPM, which maybe, Matt, is your case for, that's why it's not a very good team. But if you go by the Spotrac, which you mentioned last week, I went there and looked that up this week. They've lost the 7th most games in terms of money on the sidelines this season. That kind of checks out to me. They've really been struggling with depth. It feels like every day there's 5 or 6 names, even if he isn't the top guy. I think it's really hurt their depth. But really, this is just an insanely hard schedule so far. They've had the second hardest schedule to the Sacramento Kings, who I wanted to vaguely make a case for in this category, but I think there's too many unknowns with Sacramento. Portland, on the other hand, was a team that I was interested in before the season. And they've really just played a bonkers schedule. The only easy games they've had were home for Chicago and at the Pelicans. They played the Thunder 3 times. They played the Nuggets. They played the Rockets. They played the Wolves. They played the Warriors twice. They played the Lakers. They played the Spurs and the Suns. You know what that is? That's the 8 playoff teams in the West. They've literally had to go through the entire gauntlet of the playoff teams in the West. And they played the Heat and the Magic in the East. So they didn't really get a break when they went East either. all of that changes. They have the second easiest remaining schedule in the West. So things are about to open up a little bit. I will say I did not love that tonight, we're recording Sunday night, they lost in Memphis. That's a pretty bad loss for me because part of this cap is, when the schedule gets easier, they're going to start winning games. If they don't start winning the games when the schedule gets easier, that's a really bad sign. Now they were without both bigs tonight. They were really undersized against Zach Edey and like a pretty big front line there in Memphis. Kind of think it was a bad matchup. But again, you can make excuses all you want. In the end, you have to get the wins, right? But I think that the fact that they're going to get Scoot Henderson back at some point. Shane Sharp has started to return. Denny Avia has been doing really good things there. I don't think this is a bet to like Portland to win the West, but I think if you can get a plus number on them to win 40 games, or if you can get a decent like plus 180 after this loss to Memphis for them to make the playoffs in general, I'm pretty interested in this Portland team, just as a little bit of a buy low, mostly based on how insanely hard the schedule has been, which we knew before the season. I talked about it when I capped them preseason. I said, I want to be on Portland in some way. I want to wait a month or two. I haven't seen a whole lot to dissuade me from that so far. So maybe I'm aggressively sticking to a prior here, but I do think this Portland team is pretty decent.
Okay, Joe, I'm going to let you pile on here before I load up, before I get low and duck my shoulders to push back on this Blazer avalanche.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of what Jim said is really kind of what I was looking at. I mean, Dunks and Threes has them as having the second hardest schedule so far this season in terms of how they adjusted based on strength of schedule. They're 9-15 on the season. They're 2-8 against top 10 teams in net rating on cleaning the glass. So take that out. They're 7. It was a 7-7. So it's not really like they're about a 500 team. Other than that. So the schedule should get a little bit easier for them. I echo the same comments about the injuries, but one of the things that I was looking at from an offensive perspective is they have the second highest expected field goal percentage, expected effective field goal percentage on cleaning the glass. Obviously, they don't have the best players like in the world. At the same time, they're not the second worst in the league, which is where they're at right now in terms of actual. So I do think that there is some room for a little bit of a change, a little bit of a pivot here. They take right now, one of the biggest things is they really don't take a lot of shots in the mid-range, which is not a bad thing. They get a lot of looks at the rim, get a lot of looks at three-point range, and they are just absolutely abysmal at shooting from everywhere on the floor. Like they are the worst team from three-point range. They're the worst team in the mid-range, and they're bottom 10 at the rim. So they just can't buy a bucket. And a lot of that has to do with, the team's the talent on the team, is young. They do need to take a little bit of time to grow and really improve. But I do think that they're kind of at the floor right now. Like they have had a really tough go of it so far. And when they don't play teams in the top 10, they're playing 500 ball. So I think there's room for them to improve here. And I think that Portland has a chance to get better as the season progresses.
Okay. All right. Here's the bear case for the Blazers. So Jim talked a lot about the strength of schedule. Here's the only problem, Jim, is that they won some of those games that they had no fucking business winning.
Oh, this is the Denver game all over again.
Yes. But let's just go through it. Okay. No matter how bad the Cleveland Cavaliers are right now, and I am deeply concerned about the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think they are in real trouble in the Eastern Conference. We could agree that the Cleveland Cavaliers are better than the Portland Trail Blazers. No,
yes.
They are better.
But they probably rolled out Naquan Tomlin that night.
They still won. They still beat Cleveland in Cleveland. Okay. The Warriors, as bad as 500 team. I've been low on the Warriors all year. The Warriors are a better team.
I do not. Part of this cap for them to make the playoffs is I think they could beat the Warriors in the playoffs.
Okay. How about the Oklahoma City Thunder, Jim?
That's the point. That's why they're shooting 1% from three. The Thunder defense having played that 3 times. Now they won one of those games.
They won one of the games. They are the 1-21-1.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign.
That's not a good sign. We know definitively they are not good enough to beat this Thunder team. They beat the Nuggets. They've beaten the Lakers. They've beaten the Warriors twice. No. So all of this really says is look at these losses on the other hand. Take a look at some of these losses. The Los Angeles Clippers, How about the Dallas Mavericks? How about the Chicago Bulls? How about the Toronto Raptors? How about the Memphis Grizzlies? When you have an inconsistent win profile, this is what happens, is that you'll look like you will sometimes, and your SOS is going to look awesome because like you could be on any given night, the Blazers could beat anybody, but on most nights, they're not going to win. On most nights, they're going to lose because they're an under 500 team.
But
they're
but
objectively below average squad. And the numbers bear that out, schedule adjusted, because as good as you're right, number 3 in defensive strength of schedule, number 1 in offensive strength of schedule, face the toughest. Even with that bump, they're 18th. That's why I like dunks and threes. Dunks and threes is like, well, you get credit because you played all these really tough teams. Oh, but you're still not good.
Your adjusted net rating on dunks and threes is minus 0.4. That's basically a 500 team.
And I think at the same time, though, like this is a younger team that has gone through a bunch of injuries, that has some more opportunity to improve. These types of things steady out. The rotations aren't clean yet. I don't think they were really clean to start the season. We're starting to see them lean a lot more heavily on Avdia, I think, as the season has kind of progressed, which I think is a good thing. I think he's clearly the best player on the team at this point, and they should be giving him the ball a little bit more. And kind of sorting things out from there. I think at the start of the season, it wasn't really clear who was going to play, who wasn't playing. They had the whole Billups thing at the start of the season too. So we're getting removed from that. I do think that this is an opportunity for them to just get better because they're going to have more continuity. Like, I can't really imagine what that locker room was like for the first couple of weeks of the season. And now, maybe they're getting a little bit more stability. The rotations are starting to firm up more. We have an idea of what maybe some new plays are, what new looks there are. I just think that there's a lot more room for upside as opposed to the way the season started really couldn't have been much more difficult for a member of the Portland Trail Blazers.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just, you're talking about like, well, they're expected. Yeah, that's based off of if they're supposed to be league average shooters, which the Portland Trailblazers are not. And
No.
I know that Jim Turvey is particularly pushing this agenda to try and get life to his Denny Avdia. He has been in our tax group.
I know, Matt, the things I always send you are my fears. I don't have any Denny MIP stock. So okay. I send you, oh dear God, is he going to win?
Oh,
MIP?
Okay. My mistake there. I thought that you were trying to like every time he's like Denny Avdia could win MIP. And I'm like, no, we can't. No, we can't.
No, it's a fear of mine because
I
have
just Jim panicking.
Yeah, like no. I'm like, no, Charlie Brown did not have hose. That's not true. Like that's what that is. Okay, let's go to Joe. Joe, what's your other team that you think is in line to improve?
So the other team that I was looking at, which is also terrifying, is the Charlotte Hornets.
God, I cannot escape this fucking team. Brian Fonseca is going to appear in a cloud of smoke. Go ahead.
I don't like them. They've obviously been dealing with a number of injuries as well. They're 8th in terms of total money, in terms of days missed so far this season. But Charlotte, different from Portland, has players that actually should be good shooters. And Charlotte is third worst in expected or in actual effective field goal percentage. They're 12th in expected. And I think Charlotte is a little bit closer to being in a team that the players should even out here. One of the players that's been missing is Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller, I think, is really, really good. He's been dealing with a bunch of injuries over the past 2 seasons. I think as he gets more minutes, as he gets more opportunity, this is a spot that he could improve in. I don't know what's going on with the LaMelo stuff. There was obviously the rumors, like a week or 2 ago. Is he going to get traded? Is the franchise going to try to move on from him? Whatever it is, I don't know if that's necessarily even a bad thing here for Charlotte. So I think that there's plenty of opportunity for this team to get better. I think that Con Kneppel has been fantastic to start the season. But at the same time, I think that teams are going to catch up to him a little bit more. But yeah. Brandon Miller is somebody that when he comes back and, is really kind of integrated into the fold a little bit more, gets his feet under him, I think that that's somebody that can actually improve Charlotte's offensive profile. Overall, they have not necessarily had a super tough schedule. They're kind of right about in the middle. But I do think that with Miller coming back, this is a team that can maybe start making some turns and improve on the offensive side of the ball. Do I think that they're great? Do I think that they're going to be like a 40-win team? I don't know. But I think that they definitely have some potential. They have better And they have better talent overall than some of these other teams that are kind of at the dregs of the Eastern Conference.
I think they're going to get worse before they get better. I think they got to hit rock bottom. And then to me, they feel like a second half team where it's like, you know who was good that second half of the season? Charlotte Hornets. Like, I could see that happening a little bit. Jim's got an odd one that I want to talk about. Franz Wagner left the game on Sunday versus the Knicks with a knee injury, had to be helped off of the floor. It does not look good. We don't know what their prognosis is, but like, I am deeply concerned about the worst here. And yet, Jim Turvey,
I'm intrigued. I'm mostly intrigued because their number is so long to win the conference right now. And I think if we get some Franz news, it might even be longer. And I was kind of poking around the Eastern Conference because poor Joe, as a Knicks fan, I'm like constantly trying to think up Eastern Conference teams to bet right now, because I don't think the Knicks should be as heavily favored as they are right now. I think they are probably the best team in the East, but I think that this East is really wide open. And that if you're looking in those like kind of like 7 to 800, 7 or 8 to 1 range, I think that's where you want to be looking in the East. I was hoping, honestly, the Celtics were going to be a little bit longer, and that was going to be the team that I was going to potentially be buying in on. I'm pretty interested in what Boston's doing. But the Magic, listen, we were kind of bantering before the episode about Franz and his impact on the Magic. I don't think the Magic are going to win the East without Franz, but I think that if this is like a 3-month thing, I think they'll be able to survive that 3-month thing. And here's the thing with those the Magic Big Four, and I am including Matt, our favorite there, Jalen Suggs. It's only 117 minutes. We were joking about that as well, saying that's like one Tibbs game, but 117 minutes. Those 4 players for the Magic are plus 16 net rating. I think that with those 4 guys on the floor, that's about as good a squad as you're going to find in the East. They've kind of turned things around after that slow start. They did lose to the Knicks yesterday in a battle of what could be a future conference finals preview. But I think that this team has about as high a ceiling as any team in the East. I don't think you should jump on it this second, because I think we can get the Franz news, let the market adjust, wait even a little bit, let them be slept on a little bit, and just keep them in our kind of our side view mirror for a bit and just see what's going on with Orlando. I still think, again, am I holding on to preseason priors too much? Potentially, but before the season, I saw this as, kind of a big 3 in the East with New York and Cleveland. Cleveland looks sus as hell. We were just talking about it. New York has looked good, but I think that Orlando and the Knicks, there's no reason that the Knicks should be 4 times shorter if you look at the odds than Orlando. I think it's a tighter gap there than the odds would suggest.
I continue to like Miami a lot. I just continue to really like Miami, who got housed by the Kings the other night. Okay. So Joe thinks that the Blazers and Hornets will get better. Jim thinks the Blazers and the Magic will get better. I have an odd one, because this is one where it's like the numbers are the numbers.
Yeah.
The Los Angeles Clippers are probably a little bit better than what it feels like right now. So I've got them on pace for 36 wins right now, basically tied with the Portland Trailblazers. And they're on pace for quite a bit worse than that. One of the things is the season is so long, and you just have to keep playing. Like, this is the best and worst thing about the NBA is you have a monster massive win, and in 24 to 48 hours, you just have to go and do it again, like play again. Yeah. Right. The Nuggets go into and beat Houston in a cup game on the road for their biggest win of the season. The next night they lose to the Sacramento Kings because they're at home on a back-to-back.
Yep.
Like, that's how it goes. So the thing with the Clippers is they just have to keep rolling the ball out there and doing this. Now, I think there's all sorts of like terribleness around this. And, they looked like, they let go of Chris Paul, and and then they turned back into the Clippers again. And I think that this is proof that you can't do anything with them on a future standpoint. Like, they're dead. Like, they're not going anywhere. But I think they will probably improve. I think they will probably head in a generally more positive direction. What I'm kind of surprised is I would think that my numbers would be like, ooh, this is a great spot to get Memphis. And it's actually not. My numbers are basically like, yeah, Memphis is who Memphis is. Now, Brandon Clark, John Morant getting a little bit more like consistency night to night and actually playing basketball. Ty Jerome right? They have a number of really significant injury issues that could clear up and provide them with an opportunity. But at the same time, I think that they kind of, I still am. My biggest thing with them is just like I have such little faith in their coaching right now. I have no faith in their coaching whatsoever. Like there's a big debate amongst Memphis fans who are kind of fed up with Jaren Jackson. They're just like, it's not the coach's fault. You're just not playing hard. I'm like, no, he looked like an all-star and looked like an elite player and won defensive player of the year when Taylor Jenkins was there. And now he looks completely useless. And I'm just here to tell you, like, Jaren's a player that's going to be impacted by coaching style. He's not like a number one. He's not going to have the ball because he's not guard and he's not Nikola Jokic. So he is dependent on other people. I think the only other one that keeps sticking to me is just like the Wolves should be better.
They should be better.
Like I don't even know if it's like they will be better. It's just like they should be better. They're top 10 again. Offense and defense schedule adjusted. Like,
but they just are not good against good teams. I think we talked about like they just aren't good against the good teams. So it's like I think that goes into the point that you wrote about when you talked about Julius Randle and saying they should trade Julius Randle, like sell high, because like I think that the version that they might just be maxed out. Like that just might be what they are right now. And it's like they're good. They beat all the teams they're supposed to, even the tight games they can win. As soon as they play like a really elite team, they're just getting crushed. And that just might be who they are.
I'll say one thing in their favor, use this kind of like perverse, doesn't really make sense on the surface logic to get on the Hawks a couple years ago. The Wolves are 8-15 against the spread. And on the one hand, you say, yeah, they're really disappointing this season. On the other hand, if you're a fiddle out there and you're saying, I trust the market clearly is like still pretty in on the Wolves. And I think that there are times to use the market. There's times not to. I do think that's interesting that the market is like, no, we pretty much think this is still the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I think you could almost, at times flip that and say, especially from like a big picture thing, maybe not night to night, but from a big picture perspective, say the market has trust in this team. Again, this team's been to 2 straight conference finals. We always talk about the wear and tear of going to the finals, of winning a championship. There has to be some, if not like physical wear and tear, because the Wolves have been one of the healthiest teams in the league for years now. That mental wear and tear of, like you said, you just got to roll the ball back out night after night, especially if you've gone to 2 straight conference finals. You're like, all right, like, can we kind of just cruise through here? Now, it doesn't really look like that when you watch the Timberwolves. It doesn't look like they're on cruise control. It kind of looks a little more mucked up than that, but eyes can be deceiving, and who knows really what's going on there. So I think you could almost turn that ATS record into a plus for them, kind of.
Yeah, sure. Well, the market also thinks the Kansas City Chiefs are good, and they're down 10-0 to the Texans, and probably going to be eliminated from the playoffs.
Yeah, there are those cases every season for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to Eastern play-in.
Wait, sorry. Can I say one more really long shot future that just caught my eye before we go to Eastern play-in?
Sure.
The Bucks, who we are about to potentially talk ourselves out of.
I didn't even respond to this because I assumed that you knew this was ridiculous, but go ahead.
They're 151 to 1 to win the East with the best player in the conference. Now, could he get traded tomorrow? Well, probably not with the injury, but could he get traded in a month? Absolutely. But they're still a plus 8.2 net rating team with Giannis on the court. And that's with Miles Turner being pretty underwhelming this season. Listen, 150 to 1. I've put $5 on stupider things. I think if the Bucks are fully healthy in an East that I just don't see a very good team in the East right now. And Giannis is still the best player in the East. 150 to 1.
Can I tell you something that's absolutely fucking hilarious about this? Giannis is 16 to 1 to be Eastern Conference Finals MVP.
Because they think he's heading to Europe.
They're like, we're not going to give you a good number on that.
Yeah.
This is a lot to try and work through. This is just a lot in my head to try and because I mean I guess
you think he gets traded? Like genuinely? Like
yes, I think he gets traded. I think once you have that report that came out that they're working with other teams, that's it and it's done. But maybe they'll get talent back and then they'll be in contention and the number will drop and then it's that sandwich, that cheese. Tasty sandwich.
I thought my computer. I thought there was like a crazy pop up. I was like, what pop up is coming on DraftKings from this?
Nom nom nom. Tasty CLV sandwich for
Is
Joe.
that self-recorded?
It is not self-recorded, but I will move on from that. Eastern play-in bet. So I want to shout out somebody on Twitter, Desert Dad at Irish Dad 321. Hit me up on Twitter. Some people call it X. I don't. It said idea for a future Jays episode. Any value considerations for make East play-in futures with the Bucks likely to fall without Giannis and the Bulls looking quite mediocre? Pacers 35-1 caught my eye, and now they're healthy. The Hornets are 18-1. So we thought this was great, and we wanted to talk about this. So mine is the same as Jim Turvey's, so I will go ahead and let Jim lead the way with his bet to make the play-in tournament.
Yes, shout out Desert Dad, one of the ones he talked about there. I think Pacers 35-1 is absolutely worth it. Now I'm curious if this number will stick. We were hoping it was going to stick around until the episode. I mean, you said you think Milwaukee, it's done and dusted. Giannis is leaving. If he's gone, that team is well worse than the Pacers. Chicago, I still think is better than the Pacers, but man, every day it's getting harder and harder to say that. They lost by 30 at home to the Warriors, like a really injured, hurt, underperforming Warriors team. They lost by 30 at home. So I think this at 35-1 is absolutely worth a little bit of a long shot here. They've looked much better. They've kind of steadied the ship since that like really, really bad start that they had. Carlisle is a good enough coach that like they can kind of like swing it both ways, and you know Neesmith is out for a bit, but they're a little bit healthier than they were. I think it's just about the number. We're so early in the season, and so much can happen that especially if you got on some Pacers unders with us before the season, this is a perfect little hedge back or middle opportunity. Even if you just hit their under on their win total, they could get into the play-in and go under their win total, and you get a little double dip there.
So I have them a win behind Charlotte right now, and that's with no adjustments. Like I'm not giving them a bump for anything, as I just have them right now with everything. They are absolutely trending in the right direction. When they have Siakam, Nembhard, and Mathurin, like they're a pretty decent team. And again, it's just like you have to keep playing. The odds of them doing something at the deadline and picking up a center, I think are pretty high. Indiana is the exact type of team that would be like, yeah, no, we're not going to do anything this year. Halliburton's out. But we're going to go ahead and take care of this position now so we don't have to worry about it next year. We're going to go ahead and get that person integrated. I think that Pritchard and company are smart enough to go ahead and get in on that. So if they do, like any center addition is going to make them significantly better. I like this a lot at 35-1. This will be a bet for me.
Yeah, my only concern with it, because I like it too. I think the number is good. My only concern is that when you have Halliburton, this team is really good. You don't get a lot of opportunities to kind of bottom out and get a top lottery pick when you know that the next season you're going to get your like superstar player back. That's my concern, is just, do they say, well, we are going to just try to not be like that good. We're going to try to get a good lottery pick and go from there because we're Indiana and, we don't like, maybe we want to keep the payroll down, or maybe we don't want to do this yet. And we can do it in the off season and address this role at center, either in the draft or potentially, in a trade, but just not do it this year.
Yeah, that's like, it's easier for them to do the work in the summer, which is why all the teams have started going that direction of just doing all their work in the summer, which is, I think, a mistake, because you miss out on opportunities. I think to one, like I mentioned, you get a center in, you get him used to the system, you get him integrated, you build chemistry with him and the other guys, and then you bring in Halliburton and work on that next year. You're not starting completely from scratch. If you had somebody in the summer, it's like you have a learning curve of a month and a half just for that big to be able to get used to your coverages defensively and let alone all your offensive stuff. So something to consider there as well. Joe, you like the other team that was mentioned, the Charlotte Hornets here.
Yeah, I think the Hornets is still like a decent number, given the fact that they are getting healthy. The East is just also not particularly good. If we look at the Eastern Conference standings, when we look at where Charlotte is, they're obviously not doing too hot. They're 7-17, but they're only 3 wins out of the 10 here. So I do think there's plenty of opportunity there. Chicago's in front of them. I think Chicago's like pretty bad. They have not looked particularly good after that hot start. And I think that Charlotte has a couple other reasons to maybe potentially be able to turn this around. If Milwaukee trades Giannis, which we think is entirely within the realm of possibility, this 10 seed is like very, very open for somebody in the East. And, you know, the Pacers are still behind the Hornets here. The Pacers are 5-18, Hornets are 7-17. So I don't mind this as kind of a dart and just saying the Bucks aren't going to make the play in. And, you know, maybe even looking at another team to potentially fall out of here.
Yeah. I like the Pacers. Not to go too far down the Jim Turvey road of his insanity, but I actually like the Bucks in this market quite a bit better. The problem is like the market right now is acting like it has to respect the concept of Giannis staying because it hasn't happened yet. I'll actually tell you, like, I will probably not hate them to make the play-in tournament if they trade Giannis.
Like wait till that number gets crazy and then come back on it.
Come back on it
because they're going to have to get somebody back.
Yes, they'll have to take on money. They have to take on money. Like, you just have to take on money. And don't get me wrong, there's terrible contracts. But, like, if they trade for Karl Anthony Towns, you know, and they move Miles Turner for something else, and it's like, hey, it's Kevin Porter Jr., who actually has, like, a top 20 EPM this season. It's Kevin Porter Jr. and some actually pretty good guys. And let's say they move Kyle Kuzma and AJ Green and Karl Anthony Towns, who might be the saddest person on the earth, but still, like, there's probably some value there. And then the last one that we want to get to is on Tuesday, we got NBA Cup action. We'll have a complete rundown for you tomorrow for the Cup games. We will dive deep into that. Joe will be on that episode, so be on the lookout for that. Got a full slate of guys coming in for that. I wanted Brandon Kravitz because he's an Orlando Magic guy, but he has a Christmas party to go to. So boo Brandon Kravitz for his not prioritizing the right thing, which is our Cup preview. We each have a Cup bet. We'll start with Joe. Joe, what's your Cup bet?
In the most expected bet of all time, we have the New York Knicks at plus 150 to advance to the finals. I just think that there's a little bit more value in this, given the fact that Orlando is kind of dealing with these injuries. When we look at like what New York's path is, you're playing 3 teams that are either banged up or like some mix of either being banged up, or I think that New York is just better than really all of them anyway. But like at plus 150, I don't mind it. New York is going to be favored in any game that's left, especially on a neutral court. New York I think will travel pretty well if they make it to the next round as well. So I think that plus 150, getting the Knicks really on a 2-leg money line parlay against the Heat, Magic, and the Raptors is not a bad thing for me in the Eastern Conference. So I'll grab the Knicks at plus 150 to advance to the final.
I'll bet this. I like this a lot. I think it's particular when you look at the slate with Franz's injury. I like Miami a lot to win that game now.
Yeah.
Not only before I liked them because it's the revenge spot coming off that game last week. Like, I loved everything about the spot for Miami, and then Franz got hurt. And so, like, I like it even more now. And then on the other side of it is the Raptors, who are just simply not in New York's tier. They're going to roll them. And then you've got a Heat Knicks final, and that one could be interesting, but I will ultimately go with the Knicks to come out of that. So like Knicks Thunder seems, I hesitate to use inevitable because it's like, this is sports and this is how it goes, but just like, you're going to have to show me somebody beating OKC at this point. Like, I should be screaming to high heaven that we should be fading OKC because of the market. Nope. I'm good. You want to make them the prohibitive favorite in every single aspect? Fine. Cool. Can't blame you. Totally good. However, to go a different direction is Jim Turvey. What's your favorite Cup bet?
Yeah, it's a sprinkle, in part because if you joined us a couple weeks ago, I think
this is a victory. This is a victory lap best bet is what Jim is giving out right now.
My note is literally Spurs CLV victory lap. So can you play the drop again, Matt? Can we get that drop? I'm going to ask for that at least twice an episode from now on. That is what we've got here. Now, I will say, again, I've been skeptical of the Lakers a bit this season. They've been awesome. I still am a little bit skeptical, and we've got Wemby now as potentially being able to return on Wednesday. Stephon Castle almost certainly returning on Wednesday. We'll get to that in a minute. Shea just missed the game. Now, I think that is probably maintenance, and he will be back. And maybe it's in part because of these upcoming cup games they really want to be fresh for. So again, does it look from the like it should just be Thunder 100%? But we got the Spurs at 250-1. If you didn't, I think at 14-1, I would do a little sprinkle there. I still think they're the best price in the market. I think their ceiling is really high. It's a lot of the stuff we said last time. If they have Wemby back, they definitely can give the Lakers a hard time. And I think they can even give the Thunder a hard time on neutral court. At least it could be interesting and give us an excuse to play that drop one more time when we don't land the plane, but we get an incredible sandwich out of it. So a light dabbling on Spurs 14-1 if you didn't get the 250-1.
So I've hit my sound effects era. That's where I'm at now. This is the time of my life when I'm building sound effects. I have other ideas to add too. Okay, so here's one. Versus OG Anunoby over the last couple of years, Luka Doncic has had a little bit of trouble. He's had a little bit of difficulty with being able to effectively score consistently. His numbers are not as good from an efficiency standpoint. He does average a little bit more with him guarding, but his true shooting drops to 55.8%. With OG guarding him. He gets the line a lot because you would expect that, but there is a little bit of a drop off when OG guards him. And so if I expect the Knicks to come out and we've already got Luka at the ridiculous number from the summer, I want to go ahead and I want to get in on something a little quieter, and I want to get Austin Reeves at 28-1 for Cup MVP. Cannot wait to build up all these great positions and have Shea win Cup MVP in my but I actually do think this one's pretty good. That if I like, because like I do like the Lakers and the Thunder matchup. Do I like them as in like they should be favored? Of course not. Do I like them in terms of like they will likely win? Like they have a better 50-50? No. The Thunder are an unstoppable force. They have never, ever enjoyed playing Luka Doncic, and they are better equipped to handle him than ever. But this is not a great. I still think this is not like all the other matchups with the Thunder where I'm like it's a terrible matchup because it's the Thunder and they make everybody do a bad matchup. This is one where it's like it's not bad, it's not as bad. And especially if we look at and we get to a final, and even if Luka has a great game versus the Thunder, if Reeves has a good one and then a great performance in the final, I could definitely see Austin Reeves stealing the narrative here. What a game by Austin Reeves. That boosts him to most improved player, which I've already put a bet on. So I like Austin Reeves plus 2,800, 28-1 to win Cup MVP. That is my best bet. Okay, we will give you our official bet of this week, our future of the week. We'll get to that coming up. But first, the Buckets Podcast is teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, where new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. Stay in on the action and use your bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. To get started, use promo code BUCKETSNBA when signing up with DraftKings. Again, use code BUCKETSNBA when signing up and bet $5 to get $200 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours. Okay, and because we are brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. We have our future of the week. Joe Dellera, give it to him.
We've got the Pacers to make the play-in tournament. You guys heard the cap a little bit before, but the Pacers are a team that is getting healthier. They are a team that is starting to get into a little bit of a groove here. You've got Mathurin's back, McConnell's back, Siakam's there, and we think that Indiana is a team that may be able to make a move at the trade deadline, potentially starting to improve their future prospects for even next season. So Indiana has shown that they always are trying to play. They're trying to contend, and they're not necessarily a team that's going to take the entire year off despite the Halliburton injury. So the Pacers make the play-in tournament, coupled with the potential Giannis trade away from the Milwaukee Bucks, that definitely opens up that 10 seed in the East at So if you're getting the Pacers to make the play-in tournament, getting a nice, juicy future to add to the portfolio.
Jim, you got anything to add on the Pacers?
No, very well said by Joe.
All right. Well, let's do some best bets of the week. We'll go ahead and do our best bets for Monday in the association, rather. Okay. We always do 3 stars, 2 stars, 1 stars. And we have done that for every episode of, I think, all but one this season. And I try and be very consistent on that because I think it's good to give people a lot of options and for you to be like, well, I don't really like that one. I want this other one. And to give the guys like, I like this play, but I don't like it as much as the other one. It makes for a really good format. Unfortunately, because of the NBA Cup, we have 3 games: Kings at Pacers, Suns at Wolves, and Spurs at Pelicans. And this slate is, how could I put this? Dog water. It is absolute dog water. Because, I mean, look, Kings at Pacers is a, oh boy. And then Suns at Wolves is pretty good, but no Devin Booker. And then you got Spurs at whatever is left of the Pelicans, which, like, my power rating is like, oh, hey, the Pelicans aren't that bad. And then I'm like, I was like, surely the Nets, like, surely the Pelicans will not get, nope, got embarrassed. We're down 30 at one point to the Brooklyn Nets. So, like, the Pels are unbettable. But we do have some bets for you because we would never leave you hanging like that. Joe's got 2, Jim's got 1. I've got like 1.5. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with Joe Dellera. Joe, what's your best bet?
So I'm looking at Julian Champagny over 8.5 points. It's a number he's gone over in 15 of 22 games this season. And I like the spot against the New Orleans Pelicans. There's a number of players that are questionable for the Pelicans, which Jim, or rather for the Spurs, which Jim is going to talk about. But he scored 14 points against the Pelicans earlier back in November on the second end of a back-to-back, played 26 minutes there. Was good from 3. But the thing with the Pelicans is they're just abysmal defending the 3-point line. They allow a ton of catch and shoot opportunities, especially above the break threes. That's something that Champagny is absolutely crushing on. So he's averaging 10.9 points per game this season at 8.5. I love this because it's potentially just 3 threes. So I'm definitely going to grab Julian Champagny over 8.5 points in this matchup against the Pelicans.
I love Champagny. Can you do this? Like, I wonder if there's like a same game with both his points and 3-pointers made.
You probably could. I just don't know how much like of a boost you're getting necessarily, but it's still, he's probably gonna make he's gonna make 1 3, like probably makes 2, but I don't know if it's necessarily worth it because I think the correlation is in.
The juice is not worth the squeeze in this case. Jim Turvey, your best bet.
I'm going with the Suns. There were a couple players I had been eyeing. We'll maybe touch on them briefly, but the Suns were where I landed. Where I think the best bet for the day is. You can get them at +10 right now. We were talking about this before the episode. I think it might even get out to +10.5. So you maybe say, why are you giving +10 as the best bet? I think that Dylan Brooks might potentially be out, and that might move it a half point. But I think I'm going to like it at +10 regardless. The first game without Devin Booker, they looked really, really bad. But overall on the season, they have actually been a little bit better with him off the court. Now, do I think there's noise in that and that he is a net positive player? 100%. But I think they're going to be able to steady the ship pretty well with him out. The biggest thing in the kind of the bear case for this play here is that it's like a big look ahead spot that they've got the cup game coming later this week. They want to make sure. That's why I think that Dylan Brooks won't be played in this game. But the Wolves, this is what we were talking about earlier. The Wolves, I just am not seeing it right now, especially against good teams like Joe pointed out. And I think this Suns team is a good team, and certainly not a bad team. The Wolves are 18-15 against the spread this season. We talked about that. Covered 2 of their last 9, so that has really kind of gone into warp speed of late. They really are struggling to cover. They lost outright in the last meeting between these 2 teams, and that was in Phoenix. Devin Booker was playing. But to grab double digits here, even in Minnesota, I think that the number is just too big. Again, I'll probably wait to get the Dylan Brooks news because I am thinking that he will be out. And I think that might be able to get me a half point. So I will play the 10 either way, but we might be able to get that 10.5. But either way, Suns on the spread are my best bet for the night.
I like this too. I'm on this too. This will be one of my plays. I make this. I do not make this anywhere close to what it's going to be at 10. I don't make that anywhere close to it. On in-season numbers, I actually have this as only with Booker out. I only make this Wolves -3. So like I have my numbers love how Phoenix has played so far this season. With priors, I only make this 5. Like I don't see a scenario where the Wolves should be a double-digit favorite versus a Phoenix team that has proven pretty consistently that it's competitive. And so, yeah, they're a bunch of dogs. I like this as well. The other one I'm going to play is I'm going to play the Kings. I'm going to play the Kings. The Kings are they're not good. They're not good. They're very bad, but they're kind of past the, oh my God, they hate life. They don't care anymore. And now they're into kind of a random, like, sometimes we're not bad. Sometimes we're pretty terrible. Sometimes we're okay. And with the Pacers, as much as we like their futures and think that they're heading in the right direction, it won't be like a linear, like they'll beat all the bad teams now and lose to the good teams. Like it'll probably be up and down. And I don't necessarily love this spot. So I like the situation here. Carlisle with rest advantage is not a great one to go into. He's usually pretty good in that kind of a spot. But the Kings have actually been pretty good with rest disadvantage lately. It's only one day, but there's a little bit of an edge there. So it will be a 1-star, very small play for me on the Sacramento Kings. Joe, what's your second bet that you want to make?
I'm looking at Mark Williams over 20.5 points plus rebounds. They're playing shocker. They're playing the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's come off of 2 games where he didn't hit this line, but the last game against the Rockets that's always going to be a very tough game for bigs playing against that like really long, athletic kind of Houston Rockets team and Steven Adams too. But he had 27 PR against the Wolves about like 2.5 weeks ago or so. 19 points, 8 rebounds on 16 chances. I think it's been a good matchup for him against Gobert historically. Plus, I think that the Gobert impact is a little bit overrated lately, at least in terms of in defending centers as well, because they're not necessarily running Gobert all those minutes. They're putting there's a lot of Naz Reid minutes out there, and I think that those are some spots where Mark Williams can kind of take advantage. He's really good in transition, is able to roll, get to the rim, good in the restricted area as well. So as good as Gobert is, I do think that Mark Williams can kind of match up. He's a good rebounder and get out in this type of opportunity. So 20.5. I think it's a little bit of a buy low after a 13 PR night against the Houston Rockets in his last game. So I'm going to grab Mark Williams on a little bit of extra rest. They haven't played since December 5th at this point.
Nice. Jim, you have one more play, but the number has moved and you're annoyed at it. Joe still really likes the cap on it. So go ahead and give your cap on Dylan Harper.
Yeah, there were a couple of guys I was eyeing tonight that, we talked about how only got the one best bet, but it just didn't feel like a night to force it, right? You don't want to ever force it. But the few names I was looking at, first of all, if we see Maxime Reynaud stuff, that just hasn't popped at time of recording. I actually probably will want to bet that. He's a rare, fun young Kings player. We'll have to look for him to be traded, within a couple months. But he's been killing it of late. Jordan Goodwin was a guy who, if Dylan Brooks is out, I'd be looking at Jordan Goodwin. And then the cap's kind of similar here for Dylan Harper, which is my favorite of the 3. So I think Stephon Castle is not going to play. He's being listed as questionable. I just don't think it really makes any sense to roll him out right before the Cup game. I think you save him for the Cup game. Now, the case against that would be you want to get one game of him to get his legs back and get fresh. So maybe he's there, but on a minutes limit. And so I was eyeing this Dylan Harper points and assist line. I wanted like 15.5. They popped 18.5. So unfortunately, I think they sniffed out this to a certain degree. It's still interesting. His last 4 games, he's been averaging like 13 and 4, but that's with really bad shooting from 3. So you can kind of project him out potentially for around like 14, 15, 4 assists. That's right around that 18.5 number. The big thing here is the when Harper and Castle share the court. First of all, Castle cuts directly into Harper's minutes. So if he doesn't play, it's good for Harper's minutes. The usage and assist rate are crazy too. When they're on the court at the same time, Harper's usage goes down 9%, his assist rate goes down 6%. So if we get news on Castle officially playing, now again there could be a minutes limit there that could be a little tricky. But you might actually want to zag to the under on this, especially because the number came in a little high. But if Castle doesn't end up playing and this number drops throughout the day, if we get like a 16.5, maybe even 17.5, I'd be interested in it. So just a lot of thoughts there, more than a specific bet right now, but just kind of talking through some of the logic on a guy that I had circled, and then the books kind of maybe sniffed it out a little bit.
All right, good stuff from the guys. Those are your best bets for Monday in the association. Appreciate you guys being with us. Come back tomorrow night live on youtube.com/The Action Network at 11 Eastern. We'll have a full breakdown of the NBA Cup action on Tuesday. Best bets, King of the Cup Court should be a thing. That's going to be fun. Lots of stuff to get into. Make sure to join us for that. My thanks to David Payne, our producer. Giver Gould on the video side. Noah, our audio producer as well. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys again next time. Till then, let's get buckets.